Shabbat Shalom to everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
We're going to commence our service with the lighting of the Shabbat candles. We have a wonderful dinner that's been prepared for after the service. And in recognition of the two that slaved away at this, I'd like Maggie and Heidi to come forward and to commence our service with the lighting of the Shabbat candles, page 120.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'chadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen.
And we're going to continue now with Yedid Nefesh, and that's on page 128. And let us continue now with Lechadodi, page 138, the first two verses, and the last verse on page 139, according to the spirit of Shabbat where this composition occurs.
I encourage everyone to sing along, at least on the Lechadodi part, if it'll be your first verse. So.
You may be seated. And we continue now in prayer. On page 143, actually it's the footnote, a prayer by Lawrence Kushner. And so we understand that ordinary people, that all of us are messengers of the Most High. We go about our tasks in holy anonymity, often even unknown to ourselves. Yet if we had not been there, if we had not said what we said or did what we did, it would not be the way it is now. We would not be the way we are now, nor would the world. We should never forget that we are messengers, perhaps even as one who Aaron extends over several lifetimes. We continue now with the Hatzikadosh on page 144, followed by the Baruch on page 146.
Vit gadol, shmei Rama, Yom hadivrachutei, Yom hichmachutei, b'chayei kon u'v'yomei kon, u'v'chayei kol beit Yisrael.
You may be seated. And let us join in prayer, the middle of page 147. Together. O God, you are as near as the very air we breathe, yet farther than the farthermost star. We yearn to reach you, we seek the light and warmth of your presence, though we say you are near. We are lonely and lone. Oh, let our desire be so strong that it will tear the veil that keeps you from our sight. Let your light release our darkness and reveal the glory and joy of your presence. The beautiful Ahavat Olam, page 150. Let us join in prayer. Page 151, As You Taught Torah. Together. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Please rise for the beautiful Shema Yisrael, page 152, page 153, followed by the V'ahavta on page 154.
We will seg straight into the English V'ahavta that we've been singing. Some of you are familiar with it. And there are a few words running around the congregation if you'd like to join in and sing along.
Adonai
seated. And we're going to continue now with the beautiful Mi Chamocha, page 158, in honor of our festival Shavuot, which is occurring as we speak.
I know the Shavuot tune may not be one everyone knows, so I will sing through it once on Nigun, and feel free to follow along with the Michamoka following, or just listen, either way.
And we continue with the joyous Yismechu. Excuse me, before we do that, let us turn to page 161, the middle of the page, that give us a place to rest, Adonai, our God. The beautiful Hashkivenu. Give us a place to rest, Adonai, our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim. And now we continue with the joyous Yismechu. Let us rejoice in your kingdom, those of us who keep the Shabbat and call it a delight. Page 162.
Shabbat
same way it was sung when I was a kid and we went to shul on the Shabbat morning. We're going to continue now. Interesting, we're not going to go to the normal Amidah. We're going to turn to page 468. It's the exact same prayer that we do, except this is a festival. It's the festival of Shavuot. It's our tradition that we observe the festival. If it falls on a weekday, we merge it with the Shabbat. And so there is a special Amidah, though the part that we will do is exactly the same as is done on Shabbat. Only what occurs afterwards, the silent devotion, the silent meditation, and the readings differ because it is Shavuot. Shavuot has two pieces to it. In the Bible, interestingly enough, there's no mention of the giving of the Torah on the festival of Shavuot. That's later. This is what's called in the Bible Yom HaBikurim, the festival of the first fruits, when it's the second of the three pilgrimage festivals. When Israel was an agrarian economy, there was a commandment in the Torah for people to bring their produce 3 times a year to Jerusalem, to the place that God had chosen. Not produce, excuse me, that's only on Yom HaBikurim. On Pesach, they would bring a paschal lamb to offer, and then the fall harvest, which is Sukkot. And so there'd be 3 times when the nation of Israel in biblical times would gather in mass in the city of Yerushalayim. So later on, and I'm not quite sure when this happened, but certainly by the time of the Talmud, also it became recognized that Shavuot coincided with the traditional date as to when the Torah was given. Now, it's not recorded in the Bible the exact date, but according to rabbinic tradition, according to rabbinic calculation, it occurred on the 6th of Sivan, which actually began last night. So we are now in the second day, which we don't observe normally because we're Reformed. We only observe one day, but we're observing it tonight because during the weekday, we haven't really acknowledged that we don't have services. Our tradition is to take a holiday that falls on the weekday and celebrate it on the Shabbat. And I know that's why everybody has turned out here this evening to observe Shabbat, and also to celebrate the giving of the Torah, which is really, of course, our most sacred gift, our most sacred document that binds all of us as Jews. It's a time of great celebration. It's a time of great joy. And we got all of you here thinking that it was my birthday that you all came, but it was really just a device to get you here to celebrate the birthday of the Torah. So we're going to continue now on page 400. I'm ever the rabbi, excuse me. We're on page 468. Again, it's the same as what we normally do on Shabbat. Adonai Sefatai Tivkach. Please rise.
Baruch atah Adonai, Mekayeh hakol.
474.
Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kedoshim b'kol yom yehallelujah selah. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el hakadosh.
You may be seated and continue in your own silent meditation or in the various prayers that can be found from page 478 to page 492. You'll note once again that the traditional prayers are on the even number page, and the more liberal, more contemporary renderings of these prayers on the odd number page. And let us conclude our meditations with this beautiful prayer. You called us to peace, page 489. Together. You have called us to peace, for you are peace. Grant us the vision to realize these aims. Where there are ignorance and superstition, let there be enlightenment and knowledge. Where there are prejudice and hatred, let there be acceptance and love. Where there are fear and suspicion, let there be confidence and trust. Where there are tyranny and oppression, let there be freedom and justice. Where there are poverty and disease, let there be prosperity and health. Where there are strife and discord, let there be harmony and peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamivarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. Blessed are you, O God, the one who blesses his people Israel and all of humankind with peace. And we continue now with Yehu L'Ratzon, and that's on page 492.
May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you,
Shabbat Shalom to everyone.
Shalom.
I want to just speak briefly. That's a very hard thing for the rabbi to do, but I'll try to keep this somewhat short because I'm getting hungry and perhaps some of you are as well. This, of course, is the time I used to be a Torah reader. I still am on Shabbat morning and on holidays. And on Shavuot, we would read the Ten Commandments. And it was always my experience. I got to experience what Charlton Heston used to, must have felt like in the film. I always felt like Charlton Heston when I was reading, chanting the Ten Commandments, particularly when I was much younger. And that's simply just a segue to talk just a little bit about my influence. Some of them you've heard in previous sermons, and maybe others you have not heard. Many of you have heard about a rabbi that I studied with when I was at Hebrew Union College, Rabbi Ben Sion Vachel, just from Eastern Europe. Just a wonderful human being who influenced me. And you hear that in the sermons that I often give, where I'll cite text. I always look at sources in trying to enlighten not only myself, but to provide substantive or real learning to the people, to all of you whom I serve. And he motivates me greatly in my work today. Another person, and why I'm dedicated to the school and why I love working with young people, is that a major influence on me was my Hebrew school principal, the one I studied with for my bar mitzvah, which was last week. Again, a very gentle, very kind man, once again from Eastern Europe, and had a major impact on me. What most of you don't know is that it came at a very troubled time in my life as a little boy. I was 10 years old when my parents got divorced. And I needed an anchor because my world had just, been turned upside down. If any of you have had that experience, you know whether as a child, and you know whether as an adult, if you've been through something like that, how hard it is for the children, regardless of age, to adjust to that. Well, my principal was a real anchor. And I attribute much of my desire, much later on in my life, to becoming a rabbi. My parents later remarried. 3 years later, after the bar mitzvah, they married. Maybe my singing wasn't so good back then. That caused and finally, there's one other influence that I'd like to share with you. And as some of you know, before I came here, and I'm now attempting to complete my program, I was working on a Master's of Science in mental health, in clinical mental health counseling. And I took a hiatus from that and came to, it wasn't a hiatus, I came here because, well, I fell in love with Hollywood. And I still am. I'm so proud to be a rabbi. So what motivated that, right? Well, there was an influence. At the age of 15, I'll share this with you. I was trying out to give they would select a student to give a speech at commencement. And I was on the debate team. And as some of you know, as a child, I stuttered terribly. You don't hear much of that today, but I stuttered unbelievably. I had to go to the Central Institute for the Deaf to learn how to speak English. My mind would race much faster than what my mouth could keep up with. Some of you who are in that kind of field know that that's a problem. And by the time I finished, I was able to speak English, but I couldn't pronounce my R's and my S's, and I stuttered unbelievably. And then it kind of went away for about a couple of years. And then at this speech that I was giving, it all came back in a flood. I mean, it was almost humiliating. And back in those days, people weren't as kind and as sensitive in schools as I hope they are today. I went through most of my childhood, and I had a therapist. My parents were insightful enough at that time to send me to a psychotherapist. His name, may he rest in peace, Dr. Gerald Mosers. And he stayed with me throughout most of my life. Throughout most of my life. I didn't see him every week from the time I was 15 to now, but whenever I would go through a transition in my life, and I thought I needed to sort things out introspectively and figure out where I was, I would call him up on the phone, and I would talk to him, and he was always there. Once, and sometimes we were in the same city because I was in Chicago, and I would go and talk to him and find tremendous relief. So some of you know, I think everybody knows that before I came here, I had open heart surgery, right? And that was really traumatic. And I really learned a lot. Before that, I'd make hospital visits, and I'd try to be very sensitive and so forth, and try to be Rogerian, try to sit in their shoes, the people who were in the hospital, and be as warm as I possibly could be. But as a patient, I will tell you this, it's altogether different. Some of you may have been in hospitals. I hope those that haven't will never have to go. I hope those who haven't will never have to go again. But it's a very different experience when you're actually the patient than you are when you're the rabbi walking in to make the visit. And I learned a lot from that experience. I learned about doctors. I learned about what it's like to be really sick. And thank goodness I recovered. I recovered very well. The doctor was fantastic. I'm still in touch with the surgeon who did the surgery, and I consider him as saving my life. And I'm healthy. I'm very good now. I have no problems. But afterwards, it was such a life-changing experience for me that I called my old therapist up on the phone. I wanted to talk to him because it was a major change for me. I used to run marathons. I dieted from the time I was 19 to the time that I found I needed open heart surgery. So for me, this was like a major paradigm shift for who I was and how I felt about myself. So I called him up on the phone, And lo and behold, he had died. He passed away 6 months before. So I didn't talk to him all the time. I just called him whenever I had a problem, when I had something I wanted to talk to him about. And I thought, who am I going to talk to now? Because this man understands me from when I was 15 years old and had always been there whenever I needed him. So it dawned on me, somehow through my tears and my mourning, that I tried to think, well, what would he want me to do? Or what would he think, what would he tell me? And then I realized that, well, I think I have to honor his memory. I have to become a therapist. And I have to sort of pay it forward. Maybe some of you have seen that movie where you've been given such a gift over a lifetime that you want to pay that, you want to continue that in his memory. So I went to school. God knows why. But I did. And then COVID came. And my desire to go back in the ground, I hadn't finished the program, I'm very close to it. And people have been very gracious. I kind of work around things and try to fulfill the requirements, blah, blah, blah. One of the reasons I did go, it wasn't just simply for that. As a rabbi, I was crossing lines. I knew a lot about therapy. And pastoral counseling is different from psychotherapy. It's very different, not very different, it's different. But it leads into that. And I knew when I was at Dartmouth, and I was crossing lines all the time. I just can't help it. I mean, that's just the way it is. So I had psychiatrists I would talk to, and I would have psychologists I would talk to, who were very helpful. But I felt it was time to really get the training necessary. And so I went. But as I went through it, and then COVID came, and I had finished all my coursework, I really wanted to go back into the rabbinate. And I began to kind of look around and see what's in there. I didn't apply to many places. I had a few. But your application, I don't know why it stood out. And when I asked, Maggie, how did you feel about going to Alabama? Well, if it could be good, then yeah, okay. I was hesitant as well. I mean, I didn't know anything about Mobile, Alabama, and my only understanding of Alabama was like the South and Gone with the Wind and all that kind of stuff. That was I'd never been in the South. I don't think Gil knows this. Gil was on the search committee. Maggie, when I was being interviewed on the Zoom call, because we would only go by Zoom, right? Then it was because of COVID. Maggie was not on the screen, but you could hear the dialogue back and forth. You could hear the answers, and that was good because, in a way, because it's a big move. It's a big deal. And we both said, yeah, we really have to come here. I mean, all of you were so warm and so gracious. And just really wonderful. And it's really been that way since both Maggie and I have come here. And so this little birthday celebration is really more in honor of the congregation than it is for me. I want to really thank Heidi, a very, very dear friend of ours, for they worked yesterday and they worked today to prepare something that's absolutely delicious, I'm sure. I just want to thank you for allowing me to serve as your rabbi. That's one of the best birthday presents that any person could possibly have. Shabbat shalom.
Rabbi, we're not done yet.
Oh, okay.
It is your birthday, and I know as a rabbi you give blessings to everybody for everything. It's our turn to bless you.
Oh.
I have to read it.
Neither do I.
Okay. God of days and years, author of life, our times are in your hand. We thank you for the blessing of life and for all that enriches our lives. We gather today in special thankfulness to share the happiness of Rabbi Boras. Be with him always as the joy of his life. May he be blessed with health and happiness and with strength to overcome sickness and sorrow. May we have the joy of coming together for many more years, united by mutual reverence of love. Then will our lives be filled with abundance and blessing. Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So we want to offer you a Shehekianu. And I was saying, and Nate, the one I chose, as you were talking, it reminded me, this is a slightly different melody than everyone's used to growing up. But it's the one that we sang to you when we had you on Zoom and we welcomed you to the congregation.
Yeah, you sang about
So-
you sang the Mobile.
And we also sang a Mobile.
Oh,
We did. But if you are familiar with this Shehekianu, please join along. It's a little schmaltzier.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'ehyanu v'kivanu v'higiyanu v'azal haseh. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'ehyanu v'kivanu v'higiyanu v'azal haseh. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Rabbi. Happy birthday to
Thank you. I'm off for climb. I don't even know where we are in this. Goodness. Thank you. I know we're running a little bit late, but we do need to complete the service. Thank you so much for that beautiful, beautiful blessing. That'll stay with me for a long, long time. And I didn't get a chance to thank Molly for just how wonderful it is to work with you. I shared, with Molly, the board's comments about Molly at the last, and just couldn't echo them more. That she's just a real joy to work with, and not every rabbi is so blessed to have such a gracious cantor, and so easy to work with. It really is a machaya, as we say. So thank you. And thank all of you. This is one I'm not going to forget. That is for sure. It's very, very special. Thank you, everyone. All right. Let's go back to the service. Page 371, the Misha Berach there. In our prayers, we pray for the healing of Rhoda Bennett, Harold Fink, Gloria Weisberg, David Cherniak, Phyllis Feibelman, Dr. John Johnson, Mark and Hetty Blinderman, Elise Zeman, Jennifer and Amy Sundberg, Pam Fisher, Alice Glass, Cheryl Broom, Elizabeth Kaiser, Sheila Ross, Sandy Holberg, Alan Lewis, Emily Fink, Rick Finn, Mike Ware, Larry Miller, Bruce Glover, Lisa Haifizi, Joseph Kenny, Aline Moran, Jennifer Guggenbiller, Elaine Berman, and Aaron LeMay. Is there anyone who you wish to recite now their names who are in need of spiritual, or who is in need of healing?
Phyllis Levy,
Louis M. Klein and Joyce L. Lee.
Judy and Henry Barton.
Holly Kaluti.
We shall never be more changed. Because of our change, let's socially be loving with the fruit of Shema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Please rise for the Aleinu, page 586.
Alleluia, l'échappée à ta tombe, à tes du lager semplici, cielo assagno che arrason, bello samanu, k'mishpechot Adama, cielo samach Yerushalem,
You may be seated. Before we continue with the Yisker, we recall the yard sites of Sarah Koppelman, Jerome Goldman, Gertrude Koppelman, Valdivia Vogel, Irving Gambler, Ellen Malfelder, Manuel Wolf Gardberg, Molly Long, Louis Goldman, Sarah Posner-Cherniak, and Samuel Dimar. We're going to continue now with the silent Yiskers before we recite Kaddish, so we'll recite Kaddish one time. If you turn to page 580, is the silent Yisker. And we'll just take a moment to remember those who have, the loved ones who have passed on. Please rise for the El Moed Rachamim on page 582, and that will, then we'll continue with Yesh Kochavim on page 595.
El Moed Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim, Amitzei Menucha Nechona, Achat Kanafei Ashechina, Im Kedoshim Utorim, Kezaharakia Maschirim, L'nishmat Yakirenu shehalchu le'olam, shehalchu le'olam, Baal harachamim, Yastireim b'sete kanafol le'olamim, V'yitzaror b'tzaror achayim, V'yitzaror b'tzaror achayim, Et nishmatam, Adonai hu nachalatam, V'yanuchu B'shalom al mishkavam L'nomar Amen.
You may be seated. We continue with the Yesh Kochavim, page 595.
There are stars up above, so far away we only see their light, long after the sunset is gone. And so it is with people that
Kaddish, page
598. Yitgadal, Yitkadash, Shmei Rabbah, V'yalma divrach Yiruteh, V'yamrit Malchuteh, B'chayechon V'yomechon, U'v'chayei D'chol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala U'vizman Kariv Imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevorach, Le'olam U'le'olmei Olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudsha b'richu v'ela min kol birkata b'shirata tushkachata v'nechamata da'amiram yalma v'imru amen. Yehei shlom rabbi shemaya V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'nirama, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May God, who establishes peace unto the heavens, grant peace and comfort in the hearts of all who mourn, and let us say, Amen. You may be seated. I'd like to, Deanna, put you on the spot. Would you like to lead us in the Kiddush? That would be lovely. Thank you. We're going to continue with the Kiddush, page 123.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu. Shabbat kasho, v'yahava u'ratzon, inkilanu, zikaron l'maaseh bereishit, ki hu yom tehillah l'mikra'e kodesh, zecher l'tziyah Mitzrayim, kivanu v'harta, v'yotanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kasheka, Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha-Shabbat. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
You may be seated. I want to once again thank Christopher Lovely for, pardon the play on your last name, for your lovely pianism and for the accompanying. She add so much to our services, and of course to our cantorial soloist, Molly, for once again leading us in worship. And thank all of you for coming and celebrating Shavuot. And we have a wonderful dinner afterwards. I hope that all of you can stay. Then we're going to conclude our service with Ein Eloheinu. Wonderful Memorial Day weekend, and thank you all. And especially me for that beautiful blessing.
Yeah, we're on page
Ein Eloheinu.
631.
626.
626. It's fitting, because this is a happy version of it. So please join in. If you don't know it, you'll catch on really quickly.